Hello, my name is Trydar. Today I'm going to be showing you how to build an Asian-style pagoda in Minecraft. Let's get started. First, let's take a tour around the outside of the pagoda. As you can see, it is mainly octagonal in shape, with several tiers to it. And it is done in the traditional Asian style as best I can replicate it. Most of the elements in this are repeating patterns, so I would say this is going to be of moderate difficulty, but with the tutorial you should be able to reproduce this in your own worlds. So let's get a closer look at the details here. You can see we have the octagonal roof sections with several tiers, and they are arranged around a central pattern. We also have some red hanging paper lanterns out front along the sides here. And there is an interior to the building, of course, so let's go in and take a look at this. This is your main room. It has a few more paper lanterns in it. There's also a ladder here, and if we go up the ladder a little bit, I will show you a view of several of the floors, because this is how you will be accessing those. There is a small transition layer here made of wooden support beams, but above that there is a main spacious octagonal room here. You can use one of these for your storage rooms or your enchanting areas. Here is another slightly larger and more different room than the other one, but the patterns do repeat. So we have another floor like this. This floor also features the windows here with the wooden lattice that you can look out of. The other floors, however, do not feature windows, but as a trade-off, they are slightly higher in total height on the inside. And let's skip over to the top here, and I'll show you all the rooms in profile on the way down. So this is going to be your top room. Above here is pretty much just the roof. There's really no usable space up there. So if we go down the ladder here, I will give you just a sweeping panoramic shot of all the rooms that you will have to use inside this pagoda. As you can see, it's quite a lot of rooms, so I doubt you will be running out of those. And we are now here on the ground floor. So now that the tour is complete, let's go over here and take a look at the bill of materials you are going to be needing to construct this fine edifice. So you will be needing 9,081 blocks of cobble, 956 blocks of basalt, 70 blocks of prismarine, 3,067 blocks of dark prismarine, 2,525 blocks of obsidian, although if you don't wish to farm the obsidian for the roof, a substitute would be another black block. You could use more black stone here if you want to for that. But you need 1,376 black stone slabs, 2,933 spruce planks, 7,224 spruce tree trunks, 2,844 spruce slabs, 1,645 spruce stairs, 528 spruce fences, 184 quartz blocks, 131 quartz slabs, 529 quartz stairs, 756 chiseled quartz, 241 quartz pillars, 96 red banners, or whichever you prefer to have be the banner color for your paper lanterns, 292 trapdoors of your choice, I prefer spruce, 272 stone buttons, 12 blocks of glowstone for the paper lanterns, 8 spruce doors, 59 ladders, and 297 torches. Okay, so with that out of the way, let us go over here and begin with the phases, because as you can see, this tutorial is laid out in slices, and each slice is going to be 2 blocks taller than the previous slice, except for the foundation here. It's 1 block high. But beyond that, the next one will be 2 blocks taller than that, and 2 blocks taller than that, and so on and so forth until we get all the way to the top of the pagoda. That is the format of the tutorial. So let us first begin with some measurements so that you can lay out the base correctly. And the base we are laying out pretty much of chiseled quartz blocks, but there is a filler of cobble. Now, if you wish to leave the base hollow, which you can do if you're building this in survival to save some materials, pretty much all the cobblestone that I listed, you can leave off the bill of materials if you choose to make the base hollow. But of course, I spare no expense, so I filled it in. Now, this building is symmetrical around a center line. So if we have a center line running through here, if you build block patterns like this over here, you want to mirror that and build block patterns like that on the other side of this line. And I think this building is also 4-way symmetrical, by the way. If we draw another center line that goes through here, not counting the base, it should also be symmetrical that way as well, except for the access ladder. So let's start taking some measurements. The front here is going to be 9 blocks wide. And we have our center line here, by the way, for reference. So we want to put down some quartz stairs, then 2 blocks of chiseled quartz on either side of that. And then you want to count back 5 blocks. And then you want to run this way for 9 blocks. And then you want to count the diagonal out according to these patterns that you see done here. And I think if I just show you this from above, you should be able to get the block counts fairly easily because the quartz is a fairly high contrast block. And of course you want to do that on both sides and along these sides here. And all of these gaps here are going to be 5 blocks, and then you have your 2 blocks here. So you're doing a 2 on the corner, and then a 5, then a 2, a 5, a 2, a 5, and a 2. And once you have done that, you want to replicate this again on the back side, according to this pattern here, and the back here as well. That's another 2, 5 pattern, and another diagonal, and the side over there. So let me go from the top here and give you a good top-down view of what the foundation should look like at this point. Now you want to take extra time and make sure the foundation is correct, because everything from this point will be measured off of the foundation. So if your foundation is inaccurate, your entire building will be off, and we can't have that. So with all that said, let us move on to the next phase. Over here, we are building up the front stairs with quartz stairs, as you see there, the side stairs serving as sort of like guardrails on either side. And there are various patterns in here of quartz that are the pillar blocks and the chiseled that are done like this here. You don't have to worry about these patterns too much. It's a very subtle pattern, but do your best to replicate it as you can. And I think back in some of these sections, I probably should have made this quartz there, but that's fine. So you want to make the side sections like this here. You're putting these directly on top of the foundation that you have just so carefully laid. And you're doing the same repeating patterns all the way around. In other words, this section here is a repeating segment. You build that again over here, and all the straight segments along the back, you are building out the same pattern over there and the same patterns for the diagonals as well. So once you get one straight side and one diagonal, you will know how to do the rest of the octagon. So let us move on to the next phase. This phase over here, we're focusing on these two blocks. And you're building up your quartz stairs straight up. And there's a little break in the guardrails around here with a bit more chiseled quartz and pillar quartz laid on its side, as is done there. And here is the complete pattern for the quartz segments. So this is the pattern for the straight segment and the ones for the diagonals. It's just some right side up stairs stacked on top of each other, and then some upside down stairs, and then a band of chiseled quartz pretty much all the way around the building. And this right here should be chiseled quartz as well. That's a small mistake in the design. The quartz patterns are so subtle, it's easy to miss things like that. And here is the pattern on the side, and the full pattern on the back side around here. All right, now it's also at this phase we are putting in some of the top materials, and you're doing that with obsidian and basalt. You can also do this with blackstone if you decided not to farm the obsidian. And you want to make it out according to this pattern here. You're just following the quartz octagon, except you're filling it in just a little bit, and you're doing it, of course, in 2-block sections like that. Except on these sides here, it's 3 blocks this way and 4 blocks that way for that. You want to make those just a little bit thicker on those segments there. Well, there's a view from the top down. And there's a view from the top down of the next phase, which we are going on to right now. Now, let's start on the outer sections here. On this phase, we will be finishing the base pretty much and the outer sections. And you're putting in a railing of quartz with stairs facing each other and some slabs in the middle, as is done like that. And that is a pattern for all the flat segments. And you're stacking stairs on top of each other to make the decorations for these sections here. And this pattern here, you are of course doing over here on the diagonal. But you're doing it just a little bit different with the stair patterns as you see done here. Of course, all the diagonals and straight sections are exactly the same. So let me give you a view of that here. All right, let us now focus on the interior here. So pretty much wherever you left off with the obsidian on the last phase, over there, this cobble section, on top of that, you are now putting in quartz slabs. You want to put a band of those all the way around the octagon, and then behind those, full quartz blocks. Just a band here, and then a 2-block band there. All right? So once you have gotten that established, let's move in a little bit more, and you now want to put in more bands of basalt. 2 blocks thick here, and obsidian here, and 2 blocks here, and more obsidian behind that, and basalt behind that, and prismarine and obsidian there. And I think if I just give you a top-down view of that, you should be able to establish the pattern. All right, so now that you have established that pattern, let's take a look at the spacing for the footing of the wooden posts of the building. This is a typical Asian feature of how they build their buildings. The posts are just put directly on these little stone sort of footpads, and they're not actually tied into the ground. This is a typical thing they do because it makes the building a lot more earthquake resistant, meaning that when an earthquake hits, the building can sort of shake and rattle and move around, and all the energy gets absorbed in the structure so it doesn't fall down. It's a pretty neat characteristic. But anyway, along our center line here, if you've been paying attention to that, you want to put your first post right there. Just one block back from the quartz band. And then your second post, you want to have a spacing of 3 blocks between all of those. And that is, of course, going to be the same on the side over here and the back. So once you have done those, you can use the spacing of that to establish the next footpads, which we can do by drawing a red L, 4 blocks this way and 1 block that way, and then put your post. Okay? And so once you have done that, you can draw 3 blocks this way, 2 blocks that way, and put your post. And you can do the same thing again to get the measurements for these 3 posts there. And of course, you want to do the same post measurement for that on the sides over here and around the back. Now there are some interior posts. You are putting these directly behind these here with a spacing of 4 blocks, as you see done here. And once you have gotten this one, the other ones are easy to do. They are just on a diagonal along here, like so. All right. Let's see. You have your doors here. You have a foundation of basalt back here, and then you are just doing a diagonal like that of basalt till you get over here, and it goes straight. So I will show you this from the top down, and it's just the inner rings, so you want to make that and take your time to get all the measurements right. This is another critical phase, so I'm trying to move a little bit slow on it so you can see everything you need to see to get the blocks placed in their proper order. All right. With that done, let us move on to the next phase. This one should be somewhat easier, because now that we have taken the time to get all the block placing down here correct, on top of that, you then want to put spruce tree trunks just straight up like this. And on the sides of those, you want to put your spruce trap doors on all 4 sides of every single post, all the way around the structure, as you see done here. All right. So once we have done that, we want to then move on to the interior core. And you are placing more posts, but you're also placing some lintels over the doors here. And we are, of course, placing posts directly on top of the basalt. But on this level up here, we are placing in the spruce fences to serve as the lattice windows. And you want to make those according to this pattern here. And do that for the entire octagon. And I'm not going to remark directly on the torches after I do right this moment, because these are just suggested places for your torches. But if you're building this in survival, I imagine you will want to put down many more torches that I have listed. So I will leave that up to your discretion as we move on to the next phase. So over here, the post, you're going up 2 more blocks. You're just putting them straight on top of the other posts. for every post all the way around the pagoda. And you are also extending up the lattice work with your spruce fences and your posts on the inside here. It's a very simple phase. You just take everything that you did in the last phase and extend it straight up. We're also starting to put in the ladder that serves as the principal access for the height of the structure. So that one doesn't require too much explanation, so let us move on to the next phase, of which we are now starting to put in the paper lanterns on the outside here, but I'm going to skip over these for probably a couple of phases because it will be a lot easier in a couple of phases for me to explain the placement of those. Over here, you are extending up your post again, 2 blocks. You are extending up your spruce fences and your interior post again, another 2 blocks. So it's basically a repeat of the last phase, except for the paper lanterns here, which I suppose I can give some measurements for these. They're sort of in line with these diagonal posts on here. Not counting the post, they are, I think, 5 blocks away. If you want to get your measurement off of that and go ahead and make the bottom part of your paper lanterns, you're just doing that with red banners, double stacked, some glowstone, and a piece of spruce. And on top of those, on the next phase, you're just putting in the spruce fences to suspend them from the lower part of the roof, which we're getting to momentarily. All right, on this phase over here, you are extending up your post 2 more blocks and your interior lattice as well. You can also start to put in the lower parts of the interior paper lanterns in here as well. And I believe they are just in line with these sections here. And they look to be about 6 blocks away from that point there. So let me give you a good top-down view before we move on. Starting to look like a kaleidoscope, so I don't know how helpful the top-down view is for this particular phase. So let us move on to the next one, because this one is complex. Okay. So over here, we are putting in the lower sections of the very complex Asian roofs. And I think that would be the best way to describe this to you. So we have our center line coming through here. So bear that in mind. And you're going to want to alternate having tree trunks and spruce slabs done out according to this pattern here. And you want to make a jagged edge, and you want to have the first of your stone buttons on these sections here. And I think if I show these to you from below, you should be able to use the measurements of the wooden post that you've been building to get the measurements of these correct. So if I go real slow along the sides here, as you can see, we've got a diagonal that runs through the building here, and that's partially reflected in these sections up here, which sort of cross together. Of course, in an ideal Asian structure, these would all be extending out radially, but Minecraft is, of course, very blocky, so I have had to make some compromises in that respect. So there is that section there, and the underside of this section over here. And of course, since this does have 4-way symmetry on this section, once you have done 1/4 of this, you can get the other 3/4 just by repeating what you have already done by just rotating it around the building. All right, so I better go inside here and give you a view from the interior. I think we're just still extending up on the inside here, the wooden post and the lattice work. There are some gaps over here, though. So let me give you a good top-down view, and this one may make a little bit more sense. This is going to be one of the more complicated sections because doing Asian roofs is always very, very complex. And with that said, let's continue to this phase here. So pretty much on top of what you did with the endpoints of the spruce half slabs, you want to come across that and put in a band of dark prismarine. And this is the octagonal sections. I think if I just show it to you in profile here, you can very easily get the block spacing because it just goes straight on top of the wooden sections that you just laid out. And of course, on the corners here, you can see where your paper lanterns are hanging down from the octagonal corners on each of the 8 sections. That's why we have 8 paper lanterns. And these sections also have a small detail where the dark prismarine extends up a little bit. And from the back there, you are putting in a band of obsidian and then some half slabs of black stone, and then a 2-wide band of obsidian there. Although I think blackstone slabs will be going on that too, so that kind of is hidden somewhat. So that could save you on some of the obsidian bill, I think. On the inside here, we have some complicated patterns. And these are done with posts and spruce stairs, according to these patterns here. Some of these just defy explanation, so I'm just going to give you a slow panning view of all of these as best I can. And of course, during the video, if I'm going too fast, all you need to do is pause and replicate the block patterns that you see on your screen. And as always, if my explanations are not quite good enough, the entire world that I'm showing to you here today is going to be available for download in the video description, so you can come here and take a look at it for yourself. You can also use the master reference copy over there somewhere to make a schematic to put in Lighmatica if you like to build using that mod, because I know some of you do that. All right. So let's take a look at the interior here. There's a small detail of spruce stairs upside down along here in these sections. And leave a little gap over here in this for your ladder to go up to access that. And I think we're actually about to cap off this room over here in this next phase, which we will go to right now. So, as you can see, the roof here, it is going up in a standard pattern of a whole block, a half slab, a whole block, another half slab, a whole block, and a half slab. And it is doing that for all 8 of the octagonal sections, and for all the rest of the roof sections as we go up, that is going to be a rule. So the dark prismarine here is going in a 2, a 2, a 2, and a 2 pattern, as you see, headed into the structure there, and it's mirrored over here as well. And the prismarine is fairly high contrast, so if I just give you a good top-down view of this, you should be able to get a handle on how this is constructed. And of course, on the side here, there are some small decorations of regular prismarine over here on all 8 of the corners. And I think we won't be using any more of that until we get all the way to the top. So let me give you a good top-down view of this section here. We have a lot of interlocking segments of spruce tree trunks in this section, and I will just show it to you. Some of these are going to be hidden in the construction details, so it's not necessary that you get them absolutely correct. But you can do your best. And there are some small hidden sections around in here that I don't really have an access for. Let's go inside and take a look at the beam pattern. As you can see, it is a simple coffered 2x2 pattern with the wooden beams on top of the spruce upside down stairs that I had you build before. And there's a small half slab here. Okay. So I think we have done as much damage as we can do to this phase. So let's move on to the next one. So we're focusing on these two blocks here. And you want to build out these interlocking patterns of stairs and half slabs, as you see done here. And once you build out one of these on this section, all the flat sections are exactly the same on the other four sides, as are the diagonal sections, which are a little bit messy. So let me give you views of these. They're pretty much just interlocking upside down stairs. And they've got a bit of dark prismarine and right side up tree trunks behind them, done in this pattern here from the top. And it's also at this section on the top of the roof, or rather the ceiling of the main room. You will be at this phase putting in this dark prismarine here to cap that off, and that will be your first room complete. Well, let's go back up here and take a look at that from the top. Just a simple cross-hatching pattern. And over here, remember to leave the little access for your ladder. All right, let us go on to this next phase over here. This one looks like it's going to be rather easy on the top there. But on these two block sections here is what we want to be looking at. And we are doing, again, the same pattern of half slabs and tree trunks with the stone buttons on the ends. And you're doing it out according to this pattern here. You're pretty much just alternating those. And once you have done that, you want to get the diagonal done around here according to this pattern. The diagonals are mostly my attempt to take this complicated flat section and bend it at a 45-degree angle. And this is what I came up with for that. It's one of those things, it looks good. It looks good from a distance. So on top of that, you are then putting in pretty much just a bunch of dark prismarine, although I think most of this is going to be hidden by the roof, so that will save you a little bit on the prismarine bill when you're constructing this, if you want to kind of leave that hollow. On the inside here, we have this transitional sort of structural layer. There wasn't really anything I could do with it, so I just built it as a structural layer. And you pretty much want to build it according to this here. Although if you're not going to be using this as a room or anything, you could just leave this hollow or repurpose the entire interior as you see fit. And here's a top-down view of the entire section. All right, let's move on to this next phase over here. We are building out a bit more of the roof. And we also have some decorative details on the sides here with a 1 and a 2 pattern done like so. And behind that, you're doing again your familiar roof pattern of alternating slabs of black stone and obsidian on the front flat parts and the side diagonals, as you see done here. So you do all 8 sides like that, and behind those is pretty much just a jumble of spruce tree trunks, as you see done there. And I think if I just show you this from the top down, that's about the best explanation I can give to you. All right, with that done, let us proceed to this next phase over here, which fortunately should be somewhat familiar. In these sections here, you want to build out the interlocking spruce stairs and slabs, as you see done here, with the beams around those, focusing on this 2-block slice here, and the side diagonal done according to this pattern here. Okay, let's take a look at the interior here. We're putting in the latticework windows for this first section. They are on only the flat sections. The side diagonals are done with just dark prismarine walls and wooden tree trunk support beams, as you see done there. Fairly simple interior. And of course, here's the floor pattern, as you see done here, which should help you with the overall pattern to keep everything correct. But according to my timer, we are going to have to break this into a 2-part tutorial, and you should have more than enough work to keep you busy. So I hope you are enjoying the building process so far. It's a very intricate and challenging build, but I think you can do it. So thank you very much for watching part 1, and I will see you next time in part 2.